Full circle, the blessing of being wrong. This is Oddly Robbie, outside my balcony, a stone's throw away from our community cafe. This morning, walking down a steep coastal hill in southern Spain, I thought about how these hills are natural stair-steppers. Everyone who lives here earns strong legs just by existing among the curves. It's quiet training. Endurance disguised as scenery. The sidewalks here are narrow, sometimes nearly non-existent. They hug the edges of twisting roads, often barely enough room for one person. You learn to listen more than look, using your ears to sense the hum of an approaching car before it whips around a bend. Every step is an act of awareness, part instinct, part surrender. The body becomes a sensor for survival and grace. As I walked, another thought came. There I was in time when 90% of what I believed was either wrong, incomplete, or handed to me in a tidy box labeled truth. I once believed men were superior, that only those in my church would reach the highest pinnacle of heaven, that science, history, and art were side dishes to the real meal of faith. I lived in a very small world that mistook certainty for wisdom. The encyclopedia escape. My aunt, in a trailer on a North Dakota farm, had a full set of the Encyclopedia Britannica. Those elegant gray volumes that smelled faintly of dust and ambition. The pages were smooth, almost soothing, like the first version of curiosity you could hold. I used to sit cross-legged on the shag carpet, flipping through them for hours. Dinosaurs, volcanoes, sea creatures, galaxies. They were portals, pre-AI, pre-internet, inviting me into realities that didn't need permission to exist. Then there was the George Washington fable. I cannot tell a lie, he said after chopping down the cherry tree. My autistic brain paused. Wait, he still cut down the tree. Wouldn't that still have consequences? That was my first glimpse on how moral theater doesn't always match logic, and how logic itself can be its own kind of moral compass. The paragraph that wasn't enough. In high school history, the indigenous peoples of the United States were granted barely a paragraph, just a polite line that basically said it was rough going for them. Rough going? And about manifest destiny. Whole civilizations displaced, erased, rewritten into footnotes. Even then, I felt the distortion, the way official truth hides plain under tidy phrasing. That realization never left me. It became proof that empathy often begins where the textbooks end. Now, decades later, I live in a world of evolving science, AI, and open data tools that innovate curiosity instead of punishing it. I spend my days building virtual worlds, talking to digital minds, and exploring realities that once only existed in imagination. I've come full circle. Back then, I was 90% wrong. Now maybe I'm 90% ahead. But the part I love most isn't being right. It's being ready to be wrong. And loving what that readiness makes of me. the hill beyond belief. Every time I walk down these Andalusian hills, I feel the gravity of old certainties behind me and the openness of the sea ahead. The rhythm of my steps reminds me truth isn't a destination, it's motion. And somewhere between the sound of my shoes on the cobblestone and a car echoing around the blind curve, I wonder, what would happen if one became 100% correct? Would it be enlightenment or extinction? Would we stop walking, stop listening, because there'd be nothing left to learn? Maybe perfection is the end of curiosity. And curiosity is a soul's way of staying alive. Maybe that's why I listen so hard for the cars, not out of fear, but to stay in conversation with the unseen. The real faith, the kind I still believe in, is curiosity. Curiosity saves us from dogma, from apathy, and from becoming the small world we once escaped. So, here I am, walking, legs strong, ears alert, mind open, grateful for every wrong turn that led me to truth. Perhaps the goal was never to be right, but to be alive enough to keep asking. Full circle, after all, isn't about coming back. It's about realizing that path was never straight. This is Oddly Robbie. Thanks for listening.